And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles. Before we dive into the episode, please hit that subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube. Give the video a like. And wherever you listen to your audio podcast, please hit that subscribe button. My friend, my man, Thomas Petersen is joining me to break down the Eagles, or recap, the Eagles versus Packers, and preview Eagles versus Falcons on Monday Night Football. Mr. Thomas, how we doing?
Doing fine. Finally got a little bit of sleep out of that late night and ready, starting to tank up for another late night game.
Yeah, back-to-back late ones for you. The schedule isn't ideal for you international fellow Eagles fans.
As long as they want to know, it's all right.
Yeah, there you go. That was a thrilling game. That was fun. The field made it wild. I would like to point out that on our preview episode, I called I'm worried about the field, and it came to fruition. I was not focused on the security and all that nonsense that was going around. I had concerns about the field, and my God, that came to fruition. It was a disaster.
But it looked like Super Bowl all over again.
Yeah, I got PTSD as an Eagles fan. Most Eagles fans did. Again, Sodfather, I will see you in hell. Okay, Eagles offense versus Packers defense. Thomas, what caught your eye?
I think it was an all right game. I think it was. We talked about it was some concerns about Jalen Hurts after the game, but I think it really that last drive was everything you needed to see. Basically, it felt a little bit like a 2017 kind of drive. They kept the ball for around 6 minutes, including 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning that they burned out there. I think we saw glimpses of what can be a dynamic offense. Saquon Barkley got the start that we all hoped for, and really, I think it's kind of underestimated how big of an impact he could have, because at the end of the game, I was just slamming the table, just run Saquon, just get him involved. And then what do? They just pull out another trick in Devontae Smith, and he goes for 3 first downs on the last drive. So yeah, big night for Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, which is basically the 3 guys that need to carry the Eagles.
Yeah, the story of the game was obviously Saquon Barkley. He was downright awesome in this game. 24 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, long run of 34 yards. You know what's funny, Thomas? The PFF gave the Eagles offensive line a great run blocking grade, but when I was watching the tape, I was going, there's a lot of stuff going on in the backfield here. He was kind of hit hard before he could kind of get going, and the next gen stats kind of called this out. Out of 31 design runs, 18 had contact behind the line of scrimmage. That was the 4th highest rate by an Eagles offensive line since 2021. So he had to make things happen. That 134-yard run was phenomenal. I don't know how he found a hole. He scurries through it. It was a thing of beauty, and they needed him in this game as well, because like you said, Jalen Hurts had a couple turnovers, the missed snap, the interception in the first quarter, and then he threw the interception.
Should have had 3 more.
Yeah, the interception in the end zone, and then the one on this. I actually thought the most concerning play of the game was the one on the sideline where he threw it. I think he was trying to get it to Kenneth Gainwell, and I don't know if it was Keyshawn Nixon. I don't know which Packers player jumped the route, but that was a pick 6 right there, and he got away with one. So Hurts' decision-making has to get better. But overall, if you're looking from an Eagles fan, what you want to take away from your opening game, I think you got to be happy, because I said it on the recap or the preview episode that I just want to see adults in the room doing adult things on offense, and that's what we got, because Kellen Moore's offense was nicely designed. They had great play calls dialed up for their star players. The motion rate was there. 48 of 73 plays were utilizing motion. That's 65.8%, the most in an Eagles game since 2020. So you just saw kind of Kellen Moore's offense on full display.
Yep, for sure. And we also both discussed that. Packers are one of the best teams in the NFC. So you get those guys basically on the road for both teams on a crappy field, and they went behind and they had to crawl back, did so, and killed the clock in the end. And I think, for as much as Jalen Hurts put the ball in harm's way, you also had a Nakobe Dean dropped pick that should have been a touchdown. Darius Slay forced a fumble that could have bounced in any other direction than if it had did, and it would have been Eagles ball. But it goes straight back into the arms of a Packers player. So there are things back and forth, and ultimately I think it was a gritty win and showed that despite Hurts having, we can call it I don't want to say a bad game, but
No.
A game with some troubles. I mean, they still put up a ton of points and look good.
Yeah, 25 first downs and 410 yards of offense. Like that's an A game, no matter who you're playing. And they left points on the board too. Like they couldn't finish off drives in the red zone. The one before the end of the half, like there was they could have put up a 40 burger in this game, and like the numbers showed as well. 7th in offensive success rate in week 1. 13th in EPA per play. Like the 13th in EPA per play shows that the turnovers really hurt them. But like on a down-to-down basis, they were able to move the ball consistently and find wide open receivers. So like this was, I actually predicted them to lose this game against the Green Bay Packers 34-31. I thought the offense was going to do well, and that showed. But the defense, which we'll get into in a sec, saved the day in many, especially in the first half. But overall, outstanding offensive performance. What did you make of some of the new offensive lines? So Mekhi Becton at guard, Cam Jurgens playing his natural position at center. What did you make of the interior?
Yeah, I think Mekhi Becton was the guy we were looking forward to the most, obviously with his transition from tackle to guard. And it looked seamless. I mean, he looked good. He didn't look out of place. He had quick feet to a point that what you wanted to see from a big guy at the guard spot. He didn't get bull rushed. I mean, he played with good leverage. Like for taller guys like that, it sometimes can be an issue when winning the pad level. But he did that very nicely, and it not the easiest of defensive tackles to go against in the Packers. So that was very encouraging.
Yeah, Kenny Clark is very good in the interior. He actually got some push in the middle, but I thought Mekhi Becton was awesome. Like that one play where he just like tosses the linebacker like 5 yards down the field that was in the Eagles end. Like he was so good there. He was moving guys off, and he looked the part. And this was a new position for him, like I said. So Stellan University, baby, off to a little hot start.
Yeah. I mean, when the offensive line at no point falls through, it's in the first game gelling together. It's very encouraging.
Anything else on the Eagles offense that you want to highlight?
I think we got to see a little bit firsthand that as long as Saquon, Devontae, and AJ are all healthy, it really doesn't matter who the wide receiver 3 is. Jahan Dotson did not get involved at all, and it wasn't really because like you didn't leave the game thinking, oh, they really needed to get someone else involved. But it's just a nice insurance to have should one of them have to leave the game a little bit early or something like that. So it just shows the Eagles are very they're top heavy, but they also they've built the roster to a point where they have still some guys behind who aren't getting used, who can definitely step in.
For sure. Yeah, and like Dallas Goedert as your fourth target is completely fine behind AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley. Like the third wide receiver thing, they used Jahan Dotson in motion a lot. He was kind of a decoy a little bit on the offense. I thought that was interesting. So he was involved. He played a lot and he was involved, but he only had one target, I believe. I don't even know if he had a target in this game. So it was everything you wanted to see from your star players, and then Jahan Dotson's time will come. Like he's obviously going to get targets and he will be involved at some point, but I don't think you need to panic over that. Couple more things I want to throw out about the offense before we go over the defense, which I think was the biggest topic of conversation from this game. Jalen Hurts against the blitz, which was a huge issue for him last season, and teams peppered it. He went 6 of 7 for 91 yards and a touchdown against the blitz. So that's something you love to see. I don't know if you caught this. The Packers finished in the bottom 10 in blitz rate in week 1. I don't know why. Like Jalen, there's something that you should have done more, right? Like you saw it kill Jalen Hurts last year. Don't really know what Jeff Hafley was doing there and why he didn't send a lot of pressure, but he did not. He was not facing more +5 or 5+ pass rushes very often, but when he did, he played well, and he got the ball quickly. Grant Calcaterra had a great play on film where he kind of sat down in the open zone in the middle of the field against a blitz. Jalen Hurts gets it out quickly. I just thought his time of release was a lot better in this game. And going back to the motion stuff, Jalen Hurts, when the Eagles use motion, 15-21 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Thomas, no motion, 5-13 for 66 yards and 2 picks. So, hey, Kellen Moore's getting the best out of him when they utilize motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I don't have the context to the plays for where they used them, when they did not put the difficulty of them of the plays were, but it sounds good when you lay it out.
Yeah, and like 80 were the A.J. Brown play, right? Or A.J. Brown just mauls Jair Alexander. He got the best of one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so it's something you love to see. All right, let's move over to the Eagles defense versus the Packers offense. Eagles defense finishes 12th in success rate in the week. They played a ton of nickel, 47 snaps. They were 25th in EPA per play this week, and the Packers got a ton of explosive plays, 7 explosive plays. That was the most by any team in the NFL. Vic Fangio's defense kind of harps on that, like to stop the explosive plays, and I actually thought there were a couple more left on the field. If Dobbs slipped on one, Christian Watson had a bad throw where he could have broke one deep. So there was some stuff left on the field. However, I do think there was some positive stuff. Thomas, what was your takeaway from the Eagles defense versus the Packers offense?
It was exactly like we predicted on the preview of the game. I mean, it's a new defense. It's a lot of new pieces in the secondary. Things have to. It takes its time. Like we also talked about the Vic Fangio, the first games that he coaches, also for the Dolphins last year, were kind of uphill. There's a learning curve. There's a whole new system they need to figure out. So there's going to be misses and there's going to be missed assignments, and we definitely saw some of that. We also saw maybe some of the best linebacker play that I think we've seen from the Eagles in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was scheme, because it's simple for the linebackers and what they need to do. And they understand their assignments, and I think they're able to play more freely. The usage of both Nakobe and Baun in the blitz game obviously worked. Zack Baun coming up with two sacks. Now the last one, obviously the second sack was in garbage throw where he's basically spying the QB and then goes and gets the sack. But they blitzed both Nakobe and Baun on numerous occasions where they were able to apply pressure. And overall, I think that was very encouraging to see. I think Avonte Maddox got exposed a little bit in the game. I mean,
he's the hot topic on Eagles Twitter right now. People are,
and
if there's one guy that got the most heat, it was Avonte Maddox.
There was a point where I was thinking, why at this point won't you move either Quinyon to nickel and then Keely Ringo into outside corner, or move Cooper DeSheen into nickel and then just replace him with Avonte Maddox straight up. And then I didn't really finish that train of thought, because I immediately thought about how awesome it is to have Quinyon Mitchell in his first game as a rookie, and you're thinking, all right, we'll just move this guy from outside to inside and we'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's
so
funny. Vic Fangio brought that up today. He's like, he has to be on the field and he's going to play outside. I was with you. Like, if you want to get your 3 best players on the field, you would move him inside and put Kilo outside. But Quinyon Mitchell was so dominant outside, Thomas. Like, he was spectacular. 4 catches allowed on 9 targets, 66.9 passer rating allowed, -2.0 EPA in coverage, 3 PBUs. He was chirping guys, dude. Like, he was getting after Christian Watson on that deep pass. Like, what did you make of Quinyon's debut? Because I thought it was sensational.
Yeah, I think it was really good, and for 2 reasons. One, the obvious, the skill, and he's so fluid, moving around, and he breaks on the ball quickly. He closes quickly. He can misstep and still catch up to Christian Watson going deep. Christian Watson, one of the speedier wide receivers in the league, one of the best deep threats, or at least one of the, like, you say at least top 15 in terms of vertical threats in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And Quinyon makes it look sort of effortless and gets good position on him and moves him to the sideline while still catching up in speed. That's one thing. But then the attitude that he plays with, the confidence that he plays with, it's just so vital for a cornerback to have success, to be that alpha mentality, that dominant kind of guy. And what I'm looking forward to see is when he has a really bad game, because that's going to happen as well, how he responds to that. Because sometimes we see those guys who are extremely confident, they just bury themselves when they have things go against them. Or if he's going to continue to have that mentality, even on days where things doesn't go his way. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, it's super encouraging start for him and Reed Blankenship as well.
Yeah, good point on like kind of the attitude thing, because he's kind of a funny guy, very quiet in the media, but like AJ Brown was saying how in training camp, like he told them like your route was trash, and he's like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" Like, yeah, I thought you were a quiet dude. Like he's kind of got that dog edge to him that you want from your CB1, and you need that in the NFL. Like you're gonna have bad plays. It's the hardest position in football outside of quarterback, maybe offensive tackle. Like you have to have a short memory. You have to move on to the next play, and it really overcome adversity. But honestly, like if you're an Eagles fan, you're leaving that with like, my God, we got ourselves a steal. Just being able to be confident that you know the outside is in good hands when Darius Slay retires, or just in general for the rest of the year. Not when he retires, when the Eagles move on from Slay, or just for the rest of the year as well. Just knowing that you have a guy across from Slay that can hold it down. And I thought he outside of Zack Baun, I thought he was the story of the game.
Just to go along with that, I mean, I think we both agree that heading into the game, Reed Blankenship as a starter, we knew he was a good starter, but I think you and I both had the idea that if they signed Justin Simmons, it would be a competition for the starting job. Like you wouldn't pencil in Reed Blankenship as a starter no matter what. And I think at this point, I mean, you have to be encouraged about the duo of Reed and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like those two guys together, it just gels really well. Like both can really deliver big hits. I mean, I really like the speed coming up to making tackles that C.J. Gardner-Johnson played with. He whiffed on some of the tackles, but just that mentality between the two of them, that these guys can really come up and make plays in the run game as well. Reed Blankenship diagnosing the interception, and I think when everything kind of gels together more, when these guys have more playing time together, Quinyon, Reed, CJ, and Slay, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. There's so much speed in that secondary, and you have a really good combination of veteran presence combined with young guys who are extremely talented.
Yeah, Reed Blankenship was awesome as well. 8 tackles. He led the team in passer rating allowed. He had that interception was a very hard play to make. Like he read that out, sniffed it out perfectly, jumps the route, dives, makes the interception. Like that's not a play that an everyday safety makes. And you know what? It actually kind of reminded me of his very first game, I believe, when he played the Packers against Aaron Rodgers. Remember that in 2022 when he jumped that Rodgers route? It was kind of reminiscent to that. So yeah, like I think, like I said with Quinyon, you're an Eagles fan, you're leaving happy. I think you have to be happy in general with how the secondary played. This is a very good Packers offense, very tough team to stop. And they got big plays like in the red zone. Like the defense held it fucking down at the beginning of this game. Like this could have been ugly at the start, right? With the Hurts turnover, the fumble, they kept them in that game. And I know the stats aren't like amazing, but still 12th in success rate, like I said at the top, but down to down, they were above average on defense. And I think it can get better and better.
There was a rough stretch where the Packers had like 3-play drive touchdown, 4-play drive touchdown, 6-play drive touchdown, where it looked rough for that stretch.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the front seven a little bit. Thomas, do the Eagles have a star in Zack Baun? Like, I don't know what to make of his debut.
He had a good game at least.
Oh my God, he was.
I don't think I'm going to take it further than that. I think he had a good game.
Come on, say he's a star. Make me happy. Honestly, imagine I told you on our preview podcast that Zack Baun would have 15 tackles, 2 sacks. Would you have punched me in the face through your camera?
Might have shaken you up a little bit and telling you to get back to reality.
Like, just an insane stat line. 15 tackles, 2 sacks. He led the team in pressure rate with 23.1%. He had 7 stops, so it's a stat from Next Gen Stats where it's like a negative EPA or a positive EPA per play. The next highest guy on the team was Avonte Maddox with 2. Like he just was the best player on the defense, maybe outside of Quinyon Mitchell or just both of them combined, where he was getting downhill. He was like just wrecking plays. He had that one drive where he had like back-to-back stops on a second and third down that ruined that drive. he just has like a swagger and attitude to him as well, like Quinyon Mitchell. Vic Fangio spoke today and said like he zoned him out when he was an off-ball linebacker in New Orleans, just knew that this guy can do it. And the Eagles signed him day one of free agency. We didn't make much of it. I was kind of just a little confused all of training camp where he was just the guy. Like he was just the dude that they relied on. He was a day one starter, first team reps, and he delivered, dude. I was blown away by Zack Baun's performance.
Yeah, he played well. I think going to the front line. I don't think it shouldn't be underestimated how big of an impact Jalen Carter had, despite not really showing up with the stat sheet. I mean, I think there was a stretch in the third quarter where every time they replayed a pass for the Packers, Jalen Carter was just basically getting held. And
yeah.
It got to a point where it was sort of absurd that they weren't calling it. They had a massive focus on doubling Jalen Carter all throughout the game. And the rest you can kind of attribute to that field. I mean, we saw it in the Super Bowl. It was the same here. Nobody could hold their footing and make a pass rush move to save their life. And Eagles have a combination of Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Brandon Graham, guys who really need footing to make their more sort of finesse move. They don't have power rushers. I think that's a natural consequence.
Yeah, the all-22 of like Bryce Huff, the guy was on the freaking ground like 10 times. Like he could not get his feet level. The Josh Sweat slept a couple of times. I actually thought Josh Sweat got after the quarterback okay in this game, but in general, the pass rush was kind of led by Jalen Carter. Like you said, he had 3 pressures, tied for Zack Baun with the most. He had the fastest get-off time of any Eagles defensive lineman, 0.92 seconds, which is really good from a defensive tackle. Like there were some, like you said, there were plays where he just was getting mauled, and there were also plays where he was just mauling guys, throwing guys off of him. Brian Baldinger on NFL Network had a great kind of highlight clip of him just like throwing dudes off of him. And I think the stat sheet isn't going to show it, but I think you have to be encouraged about it. And we're going to get into the Falcons game. This is where I'll judge the pass rush, because it was so hard to get a read from the all-22, so hard to get a read even during the game when you're watching on the Eagles pass rush. Like, are they struggling? Are they not? But it was just, the field's not meant to get a turn around tackles, to kind of get your feet digged into the ground and push off. So it was like, on both sides too.
Going against the Falcons, we're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And the Packers also struggled rushing the passer. Like Rashawn Gary at the sack where we thought it was like an offside, and they just ran around Lane Johnson. That was basically the only...
that play counts because it wasn't blown dead, and it was absolutely Lane Johnson giving him a sack. Like, can we agree on that? The PFF are out of the way not crediting him with a sack.
Most sites that track this stuff did not credit to him. I tweeted out his stats.
It does not make sense.
I know. I feel like some like people who chart offensive line also just give Lane Johnson the benefit of the doubt on a lot of plays.
Massive benefit.
Oh yeah. I you know what? It was. He should be credited for a sack, but in general, like if it was a real snap, who knows if he gets sacked? Maybe he does, but probably not. But that was like the only pass rushing play that really kind of caught everyone's eye. Like Jalen Carter had one in the red zone. Moro Ojimo had a great pass rush in the red zone as well. We might have a player in Moro Ojimo. And you know what I was thinking about? I was kind of banging the drum all offseason that they should try to extend Milton Williams. Kind of makes sense why they haven't. Maybe they think like Moro Ojimo will just fills the Milton Williams role after the season. I know it's far down the road, but I think they have something in him as well.
Yeah, sure. I think Moro is a guy that I know Andrew DiCecco has a really good pulse on these players here. I know he's a favorite of his.
All right. Anything else on the Eagles defense? Stylistically, like I said, they played a ton of nickel. It's going to be different in this Falcons game, which we'll get into. But I thought overall was encouraging. It was kind of what we thought. They still allowed a lot of points, but I still think that they held their own and they did enough to win. And that the linebacker play was encouraging, the corner play was encouraging. So Eagles fans should be happy. All right. On the other side, Thomas and I are going to preview the Atlanta Falcons heading to the link on Monday Night Football to play the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Double Doink Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is hard. It's especially hard when you don't have someone you can open up to. Not everyone is comfortable talking to their friends and family about their personal matters or anything that is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is so important to continued success in this world. Therapy is a great way to regroup and get everything off your chest. Insert BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy service, 100% online. They will match you with a professional licensed therapist you can trust. You can talk with your therapist however you see fit, via text, phone call, or video chat. BetterHelp has successfully helped over 4 million people worldwide deal with their day-to-day mental health issues. Use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.
And we're back on the Double Doink podcast talking Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to prep you guys for a big Monday Night Football showdown. The Eagles have their home opener. The link's going to be rowdy. It's going to be packed. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons offense. And I'm actually happy that they play the Falcons in this game and we can preview this one, because a lot of time it's hard to get a read on teams after week one, right? Like, what are their tendencies? What did they do? Were they good? Were they bad? It's just not enough data. The Falcons offense, on the other hand, Thomas, a ton of data to go off of. And probably one of my favorite talking points of week one was absolutely shredding your Atlanta Falcons offense, because I don't know if you saw the underlying stats about this. I talked about it on my yesterday's episode, breaking down my week one takeaways. I did a radio hit on Sportsnet 590 The Fan today talking about it. Literally one of the most disgusting offense performances I have ever seen game planned was the Atlanta Falcons week one.
Just watching the game had me coming away thinking, wow, the offensive line, or the defensive line rather, for the Steelers really shut down the game. I mean, they made it impossible to run a functional offense. That's what I came away with when I was watching the game. Then I watched Warren Sharp's cut-up of every single box view play. And there is literally a guy in the face of Cousins in every single snap. It was impossible. And Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, they smothered that entire game. It was to a point where, I mean, TJ Watt had 2 strip sacks that weren't counted because of penalties, and he still managed to get 12 pressures in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He single-handedly won the game. That's not even a stretch to say.
They destroyed the line of scrimmage, Thomas. Every Falcons offensive lineman allowed at least 2 pressures in this game. Chris Lidstrom, the best offensive lineman on the Falcons, one of the highest paid guards in the NFL, allowed 6 pressures, which was a career high. And I think the offensive line got hung out to dry. When I talked about a game plan, Thomas, they ran a 96% of their snaps out of shotgun in week one, 26 of those out of pistol. 81% of those 26 pistol snaps were design runs. 0 design runs from 22 other shotgun snaps. Talk about a predictable offense. Are you kidding me? A high school coach, a Pop Warner coach can click on this kind of thing. The NFL teams spend millions of fucking dollars a year to diagnose this kind of stuff, right? To zone in on tendencies of offenses and how to beat it. And this is so predictable, so easy. Here's another one for you. Kirk Cousins, in his entire the last 8 years of his NFL career, has only ran a combined 39 snaps at a pistol. So he ran 26 in week one. They almost hit his entire 8-year stretch of pistol snaps in 1 week. Why are we running an offense that doesn't match what Kirk Cousins is used to with under center snaps, play action pass, single back? This is what he not dominated, but did really well in Minnesota. So the offensive game plan was completely out of whack. And I think it helped the Steelers get after the quarterback. Like you said, TJ Watt wrecked that game. That one play that you said called off for an offside, the ref apologized to him after the game and said it was not offside. TJ Watt was jumping that snap count all day, baby. He knew what was coming. The Steelers defense was not fooled. I know the Steelers defense is really good, but the Eagles should be able to absolutely feast on this Falcons offensive line. And if they don't, then we can have some concerns.
Can we talk about the fact that Falcons had to silent count in their own stadium?
Yeah, Steelers fans traveled really well. Yeah, it was. And the Falcons have
step it up, Falcons fans.
They actually have a good fan base too. It's surprising. Steelers fans just travel really well wherever they go. They're loud. Pennsylvania football fans. But
rise up or whatever.
Rise up, baby. Back to Kirk Cousins. I thought he looked really uncomfortable. I thought he looked old and injured. That Warren Sharp compilation was really well done because you could see him just not being able to step into throws. He was hesitant. He was gingerly off his back foot. This looked like a statue of the guy that they paid for.
Yeah. They're secretly just designing the offense for Michael Penix to get in there and then take over.
Yeah, basically, that's what I said on my radio hit today. I'm like, this offense was meant for Washington Michael Penix. This is what he thrived in as a Husky. He was able to push the ball deep, these deep passing concepts, these pistol formations. This is what he was good at, and it was designed for him.
I think the one thing you can say, like, pro Falcons in terms of the matchup against the Eagles don't have a player who comes close to the level of a TJ Watt. So that if that opens up the game more for them, if they do get more protection on Kirk Cousins, they can actually maybe develop plays and execute an offense. Because it's not that they don't have talent on their offense. It's just when you go against players at the level of a TJ Watt, it can just look extremely skewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Like it's not what it will be like every single week.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can't copy paste that offense into what the Eagles are going to get at the link. And Kirk Cousins played the Eagles a lot before, and it's a long time ago. It's a whole other defense, but he's played in that stadium before. It's going to be more familiar to him than what it's been earlier and against other teams. And I mean, he's played more at the link than he's played in Atlanta.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's like they play for some reason. They always get the Vikings on like a night game every single year. The thing that like really like motivates me to say that the Eagles are going to play well in defense is just because the Falcons, like the offensive tendencies, like are they going to flip their whole offensive game plan around? Are they just going to just go to this single back dominated offense just out of nowhere? Like I feel like what you showed on week 1, you're going to get a lot of that in week 2, right? Like it's hard week to week to just flip your entire offensive strategy. So I just feel like the Eagles offense or Eagles defense should be able to key on the same thing that the Steelers did. The Bijan Robinson is, like you brought up, Edwards, if it's a guy that you're worried about, it's Bijan Robinson, right? Like he actually played pretty well in this game. He saw 91% of the snaps, so it's no more of like Arthur Smith rolling out Bijan 50%, Tyler Algier 50%. He's going to be a huge part of the game plan. He had 5 targets in the passing game as well. He caught 40 for 43 yards. He had a positive EP per play when they were throwing to him. He also saw he saw a ton of action in the run game. He got majority of their carries, 18 touches on the ground for 68 yards. So he's a guy that you have to stop. But like Ray
McCloud for Zack Baun and N'Kobe Dean in that regard.
For sure. They have to come downhill and make the stops. But like in the passing game, do you know who led the team in targets for the Falcons week 1? Take a wild guess. It was not Drake.
I mean, Pitts was on the field the most, but I don't think he was targeted that much.
His name is Ray McCloud.
Oh God.
He's 7 targets, led the team.
Did he play for the 49ers?
49ers, yeah. He was a 49er and the Steelers, I believe. He had a couple stops. But like he's been a bona fide like 3rd, 4th wide receiver his entire career. I just thought it was a very concerning game for Falcons fans, and Eagles fans should be excited about having this offense come to town because this is an offensive line you could feast on, and Kirk Cousins, like I said, looked like a pylon back there.
Yeah, the pressure is on for the Eagles defensive line in this game. I mean, there's really no other way around it. They have to show up in this game. They have to step up and take over. This is a game where they need to take over here. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about what exactly is going on and who do they need to get rid of for it to work. It's got to be early in week 2, but it's just when you're playing that week 1 game, we can fault it on grass, blah blah blah. But you just talking. I mean, you went over it. The offensive line of the Falcons was atrocious. The snap was predictable. The formations were predictable. Who they're going to is also going to be predictable. Everything is right there in terms of applying pressure to the Eagles D-line of stepping up. There's no excuses in this game.
For sure, it's time to put up or shut up. Time to get after that quarterback. Time to show the money that was spent to come to fruition. Like Bryce Huff is who I'm zoning in on there because he had 0 pressures. He was on the turf a lot, followed everywhere. He played less snaps than Brandon Graham did. Vic Fangio kind of was harsh in his press conference today and said that Bryce Huff has to prove himself to get on the field. So like they're still not like fully confident in him right now.
I love that too, by the way. I love the fact that they gave Bryce Huff the bag, and Vic Fangio comes out and says he's not a 3-down player. He can be, maybe, but he isn't. I mean, that combined with Quinyon Mitchell playing all the time, no matter where it is. I mean, that just shows me that this defensive coordinator takes no bullshit, and he doesn't care how he spent his money on. He's going to play the guy he thinks is the better.
Yeah, that's fair. But at the same time, you do want to see Bryce Young succeed, right? Like he's gotta come out.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not. That's not the point of it. We've also seen a lot of times before with the guy who gets paid the most is the guy who is starting for some reason all the time.
Yeah. Devin White was a great example of this in preseason, right? Like he was playing because they gave him guaranteed dough, and then Nakobe Dean wins that job.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Do you have anything else on the Falcons' offense versus the Eagles' defense?
No. I think the biggest issue is going to be Bijan Robinson in the pass game.
Yep.
Bijan Robinson in the open against the Eagles linebackers.
I agree. Big game for Nakobe Dean and Zack Baun coming up. Okay. Eagles offense versus the Falcons defense. A fascinating stat that I found on the Falcons defense. They played 96% zone coverage in week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wild. And you know what's funny, Thomas? The Falcons defense last season led the league in man coverage usage. So this is a completely new style of defense under Raheem Morris. Just completely different tendencies. So I don't think they're going to play 96% of zone coverage against the Eagles. You have to play some man, but I think that was more just to keep Justin Fields ahead of them, right? Like man-to-man coverage, Fields can run and beat you. That's probably why, but I'm expecting a lot of zone coverage as well in this game. What matchup or what are you focused on when the Eagles offense is on the field?
I think the biggest mismatch in the game is the Eagles' run game against the Falcons. I think the strength of the Falcons is their secondary. And I think Jalen Hurts is at his best when he's going against man-heavy teams where AJ and Devontae can just work their magic and get separation, and it's an easy read for Jalen Hurts. I think he gets more confused when he's against zone coverage, and he gets more erratic when he has to read more than just relying on his guys to make plays. So I think this is a massive game in terms of just running it down the throat of Atlanta. I think they can do that every step of the way. The Eagles' offensive line against this Falcons defensive line is a massive mismatch.
Yeah, that's where I was going. The Falcons finished 28th in EPA per rush in week 1. This is a defense that can be had on the ground. I expect a heavy dose of Saquon Barkley. And you're right, like, the Falcons defense shouldn't scare you at all. Like Grady Jarrett played well in the opener. He had a sack and a half, 3 pressures, but he's technically more of like a run stuffer. He's not going to get after you. But that's a guy you kind of want to run away from. I think Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens, that's going to be the guy that the Eagles offensive line is focused on. Matthew Judon was okay. Like he had 2 pressures and half a sack. But
Judon he's just not going to get you in the run game. I mean, whether it's Lane Johnson or Joe Mailata, he's just going to get eaten up. He's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, so I expect a heavy dose. I think I'm curious to see how much they use Jalen Hurts in the run game because it was not working in week 1. The RPO game has just not been there for the Eagles over the last few weeks. Sorry, like debating into last season, like the last half of the season, and then in week 1. I would really like to see less of that. So I'd like to see just focus on Saquon Barkley in the run game and use Jalen Hurts' runs timely and in certain spots.
I was about to say what I need to see less of is Jalen Hurts to side runs. Like I'm so done watching it. He's just not a good runner. He's a good runner when you're calling a pass play and he decides to scramble. These design QB runners are just shit. I mean, it was all of last season. It still is. He doesn't look comfortable as a runner. He looks mechanic. It needs to stop.
I'm with you. Just use the guy you paid, right? You just gave Saquon Barkley a big fat check. Make him be the focal point, and I think it will come. I think the Eagles will zone in on that as well.
Gainwell made a bunch of guys miss last week. If you really want to run the ball, just go ahead.
I got mad at Kenneth Gainwell being on the field, and the next play he jukes 2 guys. Just gave a big fuck you to Brenden.
I think I was actually texting one of my friends right before that game, right before that play. I was like, why do they not just run Saquon Barkley all the time? Is he injured? That was when he ran into a guy and he kind of went out for a few plays.
Yeah.
I thought, damn, he must be injured. I mean, why do we have Kenneth Gainwell on the field? And then he just goes was this thing? It was 3rd and 8, and he just go 13 yards and like sheds 3 tackles. Like, okay.
Just goes nuclear.
I'll sit down.
I actually thought he was gonna look up at the camera and give me the finger, like just like fuck you, Brenden. I'm awesome. You know what? Go fuck yourself. So he did not do that, but I thought it was coming. Okay. The Falcons pass defense story. AJ Terrell is the big guy on the outside. He's got a nice fat contract. He's one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league now. Week 1, he allowed 4 catches on 4 targets for 40 yards. He is such an up and down player. Like he was dominant one year. He's been kind of in and out. Like he's not, I wouldn't consider him a top 5 cornerback in the league. This is a guy that I think you can still attack. And he, like you said, he allowed 4.
You say top
catches.
5?
Yeah, I don't think he's a top 5 cornerback.
Oh, no.
No.
I mean,
he's
top
paid
15,
like one though.
but...
Paid like one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Trend of the times.
Outside of that, like the secondary is kind of weak. This is a defense that you should be able to get some yards on. And I think this is going to be big in just finding holes in the zone. Like I said, 96% zone coverage. Devonta Smith, I think, is going to have a massive game in this one. This is like right up his alley, finding the holes in the zone, beating the guys in the second level. So I'm really excited to see what Devonta Smith can bring. Falcons pass rush, they only got 8 pressures on the Steelers offensive last week. That was 26 in the NFL, 24th in pressure rate. So this is a team that doesn't get after the quarterback well in the passing game. So this is, we're feeding you stats to say the Eagles should have a day.
Yeah, at the length prime time, Eagles offense really don't have an excuse for not bringing it in this game. I think what I would be least surprised to see, what other people are maybe taking for granted, is I think the Falcons offense is going to look a lot more functional against the Eagles. I would not be surprised if it's a little bit sort of like the Green Bay game, where a lot of scoring and Eagles offense making mistakes, and then Eagles defense stepping up to stop, blah blah blah. I think that wouldn't surprise me. But then again, if the Eagles play up to what they should, this is a team they can stop.
For sure. Yeah. Let's get a prediction time, Thomas. Who you got? Eagles come away 2-0. They come away 1-1. Feed me your prediction.
31-17.
Ooh, I like that. I was going to go 31-14. Uh-oh.
I'll give a field goal. We're in the age of the field goal. We're in the age of the kickers.
I don't know if you caught this. You predicted Eagles 34-31 win on the show against the Packers. Pretty close.
I did.
You're almost there.
Yeah.
Oh, we're both predicting a big win. So this...
Yeah, so it's going to be a loss, and we're going to have to crawl back.
I know. You know what? I'm very confident in this one. Like I'm so low on this Falcons team. Heading into the year, week 1 came to fruition for me. Been hammering this team all week, so I do think that this is a great matchup for the Eagles. Last thing, Kirk Cousins in primetime, 7-22 in his career. He does not like it under the lights, and 2-10 on Monday Night Football. So it's all lined up for the Birds to lead the link 2-0 on Monday night. Thomas, you beautiful soul. Do you have anything else?
I took the day off on Tuesday so I can watch this game. They better win.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I think I'm on the night shift that night, so I'm going to be working the news desk at night watching it.
Damn.
I know. But, hey, my job is to watch the game. So, I can't complain about that.
I mean, I guess it's all right then.
Could be worse than that. Could be worse. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Like I said at the top, hit that subscribe button. What are you doing if you're not subscribed to the Double Dunk Podcast? Like, seriously, what are you doing with your life? Hit that button. Hit that like button. Give Thomas and I a follow on Twitter. We will be back next week recapping this one and preparing for week 3.